representation. Larry, now back to you.
Yes, an absolutely incredible story. Many thanks to Martin Fletcher for running that down. Now, to get some commentary on this, we have John Hofmeister. He's the founder of Citizens for Affordable Energy. He is also former president and CEO of U.S. operations for Shell Oil. John, thank you ever so much for coming on the show. This sounds like another despicable black mark for BP, and it makes my blood boil, John. You have a thought on this? Would you have ever done this at Shell?
It would make my blood boil also, Larry. There's enough attack on the oil industry suggesting that oil companies get involved in the politics between nations. I worked very hard in my time at Shell to make sure that when I had the U.S. responsibility, that did not happen. To have politics mixed up with the oil business is not good for anybody. And for a board of directors to knowingly try to contrive some deal that has some political involvement with government over a trade deal, it just doesn't fly. It just doesn't make good sense because of exactly what's happening now.
It's terrorist politics. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, heck, we're overthrowing another government in the old days. This is terrorist policies. I mean, what about the 270 victims from Pan Am 103? Where do they get satisfaction from this tri-corner deal between Libya, basically still a terrorist country, the UK government, and BP, which, by the way, John, all these newspaper reports this spring said that BP is still trading oil with America's enemy, Iran. Still doing it. What do you know about that one?
Well, I know that my former company stopped because of the issue that it faces in the United States. In fact, one of the last recommendations I made during my tenure was to say that at the board level that this business with Iran has got to stop in order to preserve the American franchise of Royal Dutch Shell because of the sensitivity in the relationship. It just doesn't pay to get into that political game whatsoever.
I mean, I think this BP is virtually, in my opinion, a rogue company. They're a rogue company environmentally. They're a rogue company in terms of the lousy drilling job. They're a rogue company in terms of being in bed and playing footsie with terrorists. They are besmirching the entire oil industry, which I regard as a great and honorable American industry. But they have besmirched this entire industry.
As somebody described to me recently, they're having a bad patch. That's sort of a British expression.
Yeah.
But I've worked with BP. I don't have as negative a view as you do, Larry, but they clearly are having a bad time of it in the last several years.
All right, John, we appreciate your expertise very much. Let me just ask you now, day, whatever this is, 76, day 78, the spill rate continues. Now, let me ask you something. Is the U.S. government, BP, particularly the U.S. government, have they treated the Gulf Coast like a poor cousin, you know, a bunch of rednecks? If this had happened elsewhere in the United States, would we be seeing a better, more comprehensive, efficient, and faster cleanup?
It's my view that the absence of even attempting the sucker salvage method, which we don't know how effective it would be if we don't try it. The fact that for 2 months, some people have been hammering on the Coast Guard, hammering on BP to please try this. At least give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It hasn't happened. I believe that if this were a spill off the coast of California, there would be a completely different response by the U.S. government.
Wait, what do you mean? Why is that? Why you mean the U.S. government would hold the liberals in California in greater importance and esteem than the rednecks, the good rednecks, by the way, good American July 4th patriotic rednecks? Is that what you're telling me?
I have a chapter in my book, Why We Hate the Oil Companies, about politics and energy. Politics permeates energy, and it's wrong. It is wrong to preferentially drill one place and not another, because the American people need oil, and they're going to continue to need oil for decades to come. I think there has been an effort underway here that makes the oil companies look as bad as possible. I think lumping all of those 33 rigs together and putting a moratorium on all 33 rigs, laying off as many as 50,000 people on the Gulf Coast is a slap in the face to the American people, to the oil industry, and to the people of the Gulf Coast. There's no reason for it. Those rigs are safe. They all passed inspection, and now they're all shut down. And the American consumer will pay through the nose for gasoline within a year and a half to 2 years.
Tell me about that. To focus in on that, American consumer will pay through the nose on gasoline. How do you see that, John?
Well, every well that is currently producing is in decline. because that's what wells do. They decline over time. So we'll see about 1 million barrels a day of natural decline due to production, and about 1 million new barrels that will not come online because of this moratorium. And it's not just a deep water moratorium. Effectively, there's a de facto shallow water moratorium too, because the drillers can't get permits. The regulations have changed. Nobody knows what they mean. So we're effectively shutting down new drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. It will come back and bite us with 2 million barrels a day of shortage about 1.5 to 2 years from now, which, as we know, is a national election year.
Oh, so, John, last question. We appreciate the time so much. Look, a couple years ago, in the summer of 2008, we had $150 barrel of oil, and we had $4 to $5 at the pump. Both of those prices created mightily to the Great Recession, as it is now called. Are you seeing anything like that in the next couple years?
I'm suggesting that 2 million barrels a day of lost domestic production 2 years hence will put us right back where we were in the summer of 2008, which was not a good place. Where we make it up on imports, we'll be shifting $500 billion a year to countries that don't like us to buy their oil because we won't be drilling our own. There's something wrong with that formula.
All right, John Hofmeister, appreciate it very much, former head of Shell. We appreciate all your opinions.